Scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and wherever you're watching us this week, we welcome you to our weekly report, where you can learn about scrap metal prices, news, ask us questions about materials, or ask our advice on the markets. If you're looking to ask those questions, ask us whether it's live or after, and we'll always get you those answers. Come on in, let's go talk scrap.
Hey Scrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, November 24th, 2021, and first and foremost, we want to wish you, your friends, your family, your Scrapper family, a very happy Thanksgiving. With the Thanksgiving holiday here, it's not a surprise to see some markets jumping around back and forth, up and down. We'll talk about some of those things, as well as giving you ideas of what you should do with your materials, or if you're asking for advice or looking for tips and tricks, you can always ask us more questions. But of course, if you're a Patreon supporter, you'd be able to get additional tips, additional market news by becoming a supporter today. We'll be able to use that support to be able to build more podcasts, more videos, more ways for you to make more money with your scrap. Now, we have a question we're going to start right off with, and then we'll jump into some market prices.
So we had a scrapper last week ask, what does inconel look like?
Oh, wow. So inconel could come in multiple different forms, and it's not something that you're going to find every day. You know, if you're out there kind of scrapping day to day, looking and you're finding aluminum, copper, steel, inconel would resemble most stainless steel because it's in that nickel family, but inconel could come in many different shapes and forms. Large bars, solid bars, it could also come in sheets, it could come in plates, it could come in bar stock, lots of different types. Generally, it's going to be used in the high temperature alloy industry. So if you're not scrapping from any of these places, whether they're high temperature machine shops or specialty part makers, you're not going to see inconel that often. So it's a great question. Make sure you continue to see some of the prices that are through the iScrap app to be able to know where the inconel markets are, as well as day-to-day scrapping items like your aluminums, your brasses, your coppers, and your steels. Let's start with steel right now, as we've seen the market increasing really over the last 6 weeks, up $40 to $60 per ton. Going into December, we are hearing a little bit of a pullback. We saw President Biden release some strategic oil reserves, which will start to quell some of the gas prices that we've seen, at least temporarily, which might start to affect the steel prices. But going into the holiday season, we always see disrupted markets, whether it's traders pulling money off of the table, larger operations taking their foot off the gas to push through the holidays. It's a lot of different changes that we see around this time of year. On top of that, a lot of craziness from the political environment. Yes, we have an infrastructure deal. No, I don't think it's going to heavily affect the scrap market. But one thing that did affect the scrap market was news from the Federal Reserve. And with Federal Powell remaining the chair, we did start to see the dollar strengthening, but that did hurt some of the PGMs, the golds, the silvers, the platinums, palladiums, rhodium prices. We saw major 10 to 15% pullbacks where catalytic converter prices, we would suggest holding them for a little while. We saw the cap prices for rhodium drop $1,000, which was about 7%. Palladium prices 15%, and platinum prices down 14% in a 3-day window, really accelerated on Tuesday the 23rd. We saw big drops. Now those drops going into Thanksgiving, going into December, into more holiday season, we could start to hear a little news from different auto manufacturers that are going to be kicking themselves back into a regular gear come January. But don't be surprised to see some catalytic converter prices pulling themselves back. Now, those PGMs, those precious metals, while they were affected, we did not see copper affected. We actually saw a little bit of a copper increase. That could be because the infrastructure has such a push for electric vehicles. We see a lot of potential tax incentives coming from the electric vehicle market, the charging station, and copper could be the new oil moving forward for the next 50 years. You know, we've talked about the electric vehicle market throughout 2021, but with this new president and with his entire administration pushing towards the electric vehicle market, the renewable energy market, all of those things need base metals, aluminum, copper, steel. They need infrastructure. So these are going to be things that could keep the metal prices propped up for the foreseeable future. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs. But through the holiday season, we recommend selling things like copper, your insulated copper wire, and your steel products. Aluminum, we've seen a little bit of a weakening market. So if you want to hold on to that for another week or two, we'll give you a little idea of where we see that moving a week from now. Lead acid batteries is another market that really has gotten pummeled over the last 2 years, especially as the electric vehicles have picked up in popularity. That means that we're going to need less lead acid batteries in the future, which has decreased the popularity and the scrap price on those markets. Now, we talked about the cats briefly. We suggest holding them for a few days to see if we see a little bit of a bounce back. But overall, the markets really for 2021 have been fantastic. I mean, with 11 months down and 1 month to go, the last 2 months of the year are generally very choppy. We've still seen very strong prices. We've seen a very resilient market. We've seen a strong market. And even with all the trillions of dollars that have been printed and inflation, here in full force, we've still seen the scrap market outpacing the regular inflationary prices that we've seen. Now we're just going to pay a little closer attention to oil and gas going into December and really going into January, on top of watching different political environments, different political news, starting to see how that EV infrastructure is going to be built. The second half of 2022 is when we are expecting to hear new developments. We'll hear little drops between now and then, but it's going to take a long period of time to actually take the billions of dollars that they're going to be allocating and put them into the economy, put them into the infrastructure, roads, bridges, tunnels, high-speed internet, and the electric vehicle charging grid. So we're going to watch these markets. Those things will affect the scrap market, but not as much as your daily, day-to-day demand for cars, phones, electronics. Those have a much greater impact on the scrap market. Homes, new buildings going up. Those are regular things opposed to infrastructure, which are generally one-time events, little blips in there that don't have a major impact. Now, going into Thanksgiving, please stay safe, stay healthy, watch these markets. We hope that you don't eat too much turkey on Thanksgiving or tofurkey or whatever it is that you're going to be enjoying. We thank you, and we're thankful for you posting your prices, being Patreon supporters, and giving us the opportunity to share our scrap knowledge with you while always learning what you want us to talk about. If you have questions, let us know and we'll address them next week. Happy Thanksgiving from the team at the iScrap app. I'm Tom, and I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for checking out our scrap videos. By becoming a Patreon supporter today, you'll be entered into monthly giveaways for tools and other products to help you make more money with your scrap.